You can't Not only can you not send me somewhere, I can't even be at home and do this thing. Was I muted for the Big News Wednesday thing, or did I? It's Big News Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm not gonna put my hands anywhere near the mic. Let's just move off of me. Sharon, how's it going? Sharon Reed is
I read
here.
your lips. You said, welcome to.
I had all these plans for the intro, and now it just feels done.
No,
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Don't be hard on yourself. It's still Big News Wednesday, and we get it, okay? Come on, you don't have to be perfect to still be great. You're great.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to welcome you to the show. I wanted to announce that it's my wife's birthday. I don't think she's watching right now, but somewhere not too far away, it's her birthday, and so I'm very excited about that. Wanted to wish her a little happy birthday, and I also just want to point out, I don't know if it's like it's my home camera, my home lighting, or my lack of sleep. It's really depressing when you're about to start a show like this, and then you look at yourself and you're like, God damn, I look unhealthy. I gotta start taking care of myself. I look so tired. I want to start covering up more of my face to hide some of that. That helps a little. So anyway, that's what's going on in the background of all of this. We also have news though, Sharon. I know this. There's a whole scandal involving elite pedophiles, and it seems to be being covered up. So we're going to be touching on that. The economy is not doing well, but you know what is doing well? We'll get to this in the aftermath. Bad Bunny. And so we're talking. We've talked more about Bad Bunny this week than the rest of my entire life combined, but with good reason. But anyway, are you excited about the news? How's the news been treating you?
Yeah, it's going okay. And might I say, I am new to this bunny. I do love this bunny. I think he's adorable. And you don't look that bad. You really don't. It could be a little lighting, but it's kind of like if you were a sailor who was out to sea without fresh vegetables for a couple months. But it's just a little. It's a color a little bit, but you actually look kind of fine. You're fine. You look fine. Okay, just.
I turned on the lighting. Yeah. So first of all, that comment, wildly accurate and also devastating. You look like a vitamin deprived sailor.
It's not what I meant.
A sailor would get sun. So I'm confused. Anyway, yeah. With that said, we should probably just get into this thing, and hopefully the horror that is our politics will distract from the horror that is my face. So anyway, we are going to talk about all this. Hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments, your tweets, your super chats. Do all of that as we jump into it. And with all that said, are you ready to do the news?
Let's do it. Let's go.
Thank you. As people in the chat are speculating that I have scurvy.
That's what I was thinking of. Scurvies. When you don't have the fresh, they can only eat the fish and stuff. And that's why.
Someone bring this guy an orange. I literally have an orange tree 15 feet away from me. And yet I probably do have scurvy. Anyway, let's just do the news.
Howard Lutnick had said that he had cut off ties with Jeffrey Epstein in 2005. The documents that came out contradict that. Democrats and Thomas Massie say he should resign. Do you think that Howard Lutnick should resign?
Of course not. It's absurd. Howard Lutnick is a great Commerce Secretary. He's done an extraordinary job for the country. And Thomas Massie should stop playing political games.
Do you have any concerns about Lutnick's ties with Epstein?
I don't know anything about that. I know Howard as an individual, and I trust his word on it. I mean, I don't know the timing and all that. I'm not sure. You have to ask others.
So a couple of little issues there, a couple little lies there. First of all, that Howard Lutnick is doing a great job, either substantively or in terms of the media narrative around the economy. He seems to be doing a pretty bad job. The second thing is that he doesn't know anything about it. Mike Johnson, you don't know anything about the fact that the Commerce Secretary blatantly lied about going to Epstein Island. You don't know about that. By the way, if you don't know about that, get that guy out of that position. I mean, what the hell are you doing? Howard Lutnick's an incredibly powerful member of the Trump administration, and you just missed it. You've been busy with other stuff. You guys are hauling in Bill and Hillary Clinton to testify, implying that you're taking all this seriously and you're worried about elites, and yet you don't know about Howard Lutnick. And also, I know him personally, so I trust his word. I almost dropped an F-bomb. What the hell are you talking about? You trust his word? You were just told he lied about going to Epstein Island. I wouldn't have trusted his word before that. I'm damn sure not gonna trust his word after I found out that he brought his 4 kids to the pedophiles for lunch. And yet Mike Johnson doesn't think, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to imply that a person that lied about going to Epstein Island should have any consequences whatsoever. And I guess I feel ridiculous. I feel like a goof about everything that we've been doing this past year, because we've been wanting to find out more about people's potential ties to Epstein. And it'll be like, oh, what's the worst that could happen? Well, they could have like a bunch of emails with Epstein. That would be really bad. Oh my God, they could have business ties with Epstein. That would be really bad. Oh my God, maybe they went on his plane. I didn't realize, no, screw all that. You can skip all that. Literally, it doesn't matter if they went to his island after he was convicted of solicitation or whatever it was in 2008. I guess we could just speed run the entire thing. There's literally nothing that could have happened for it to matter if it's a Republican that did it. But meanwhile, Bill Clinton's in the files, so he has to be dragged in. Not Donald Trump, though, even though he's in the files literally more than 1 million times. So it really seems like it's less about what has actually been revealed and more about who it's been revealed about. That's the way it's feeling to me. But just in case Mike Johnson's watching, let's catch him up a little bit on what Lutnick had originally said and what's now been revealed.
The best of my memory, I met him when he moved next door to me, and I met him 2 other times in 14 years, none within 6 years of that first meeting, and then a year and a half later, and none thereafter. And in the presence of my wife, I did not have anything you could call a relationship, anything you could call an acquaintance. I literally met him 3 times over 14 years with widespread in between. I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife.
Did I mention that I brought my kids? Wait, should I have mentioned that I brought my kids? Is it a bad look to bring your kids to have lunch with a pedophile? That's interesting, but it's not a big deal. Everybody get off my back. It's not like I have a personal relationship with him. I just take my yacht to his island for lunch because I was crossing on a vacation. What are you talking? Are you implying that that island wasn't your destination? It was just on the way to a different island you were going to? You massive freaking liar. Jeez, I don't know. Of all of the lies that could be exposed, that you lied about going to Epstein Island feels like the most significant, Sharon. And yet we're supposed to just move on because this guy is, after all, in the Trump administration and he is rich. How dare we have an issue with it? We should just go back to protecting the elites who are partying with Epstein. What do you think?
Well, and he's not just rich. Of course, he's part of the stinking filthy rich, the upper echelon of rich. And he's a massive liar. But these are evil people. And another way we can tell that is that he had all the money, a yacht, all the nannies that he's talking about, like, you or I are just living that kind of life and should understand. And he's talking about pulling his yacht up, living next door to Epstein, and yet he still has to be in power. He still has to be this, he has to, I'll put in air quotes, work in the Trump administration and be close to power so that he can take more. That's how sick these people are. He can afford to go anywhere in the world. Yet he took his nannies, his wife, his children, and they decided, well, I think we'll just stumble upon Epstein Island and eat there for a little bit. And then years later, I'll lie about it. These are really bad people. They're actually bad people.
Yeah, no, they're horrific people. They're the worst people. Who thinks he loaded up his private boat and went all the way out to a separate island for a 1-hour lunch? Who the hell thinks
he's Gilligan. That? Yeah, he just stumbled
exactly.
upon it.
By the way, if you think that that's possible of someone, why would you think it's possible for the guy who lied about the entire trip to begin with? Why would you ever be so stupid, foolish, gullible to extend him any credibility for anything that he said? absolutely absurd. And remember, they did not want this to come out. The only reason we found out about this is because that we've all kept pushing. Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, Raskin, all of them. He was not going to offer this up. He was given many opportunities, and he lied, and he lied, and he lied, and he lied. And imagine if it was Hunter Biden that had told the exact same goddamn lies. Imagine what Fox News would be saying about him right now. But it's not him. It's Lutnick, and weirdly, the Trump administration doesn't seem to have much of a problem with it. Carolyn Levitt was asked if Donald Trump stands with Howard Lutnick after we found out that he lied about going to Epstein Island, and this is what she had to say.
Does the White House stand behind Secretary Lutnick right now, or given what he has said today, has there been any shift in how the White House is viewing Secretary Lutnick's performance?
No, Secretary Lutnick remains a very important member of President Trump's team, and the president fully supports the secretary. I will just point out that there are a lot of wins in the news this week that people in this room have not asked about.
Yeah, why aren't you guys talking about like us canceling the bridge or something? You know, America first. Why are you focusing on the fact that a member of the cabinet lied about partying with a notorious sex predator after he'd already gone to prison for being a sex predator? That's weird that you would focus on that. We totally wouldn't have focused on that if Biden was still in charge. So anyway, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's insane. How are the QAnoners melting down over this right now? But we already know the answer. It's because it's a Republican, and so they don't care. And we're certainly not getting any answers about all this from Howard Lutnick. He was like walking through the halls of Congress or whatever after his hearing, and his security detail was dispatched to get the pesky reporters out of his way. How dare you think that you could ask a question? This guy's super rich, don't you know that? He can party with pedophiles if he wants. Get out of here, you pesky media. So anyway, it seems like a lot of people in the Trump administration don't like Lutnick. Apparently they say the knives are out for him. He's despised by nearly everyone, but Trump still likes him. And take a look at this, the way they explain why Trump won't do anything. I doubt Trump would easily push him out though. The president doesn't wanna legitimize the Epstein issue too much. He doesn't wanna legitimize it because it's not, in his eyes, legitimate right now. It's just a distraction. Oh, my best friend for 2 decades is tied to all the other people that I love and are super loyal to me. And I don't want anyone to come to the conclusions that's like a big deal or a bad thing, Sharon. Again, there have been some right wingers that have distanced themselves from Trump on this issue, but it is insane to me that they have not been calling for him to be booted out as every one of these extra details have come out.
And see, that's just it. It was just like when he posted, or someone posted, the Obamas as apes the other day. I don't want to hear these people, these Republicans who are calling it out. Same thing here. Distance yourself. Say, I'm done supporting you. But they'll never, ever do that. And by the way, I'd like for Congress, it's probably not fair to call the nannies in that Howard Lutnick was talking about. I'd like to know what they saw on Epstein Island. I hope that nothing terrible happened to them, but there's so much more to learn here. And if the people in the administration hate Lutnick, and look who's in the administration filled with, the woman who was just talking, and then there's Stephen Miller and a bunch of other creeps, and they can't stand him. Again, what does that say about this guy? And you still won't boot him out of there? No, because he could probably say he probably knows where all the, quote, bodies are buried, okay? The ones that we don't know about. He's probably the bone collector and says, well, I'm not going down. He's going to go down with me.
Yeah. We had to deal for literally years with all these insane people telling us there's a cabal or a cable, depending on the right winger, of they're protecting the elites. They don't want justice. They want to protect the elites. This is literally that. And they don't seem to care. Well, some of them care a little bit performatively, and we're going to turn to that right now. When it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and the blatant, transparent cover-up that's going on right now, MAGA's in a bit of an identity crisis because they love Donald Trump and they do not like criticizing him, but they also cosplayed for literally years as if they were like against elite pedophilia and they want to protect the kids. So they kind of have to criticize the cover up a little bit because it's buffoonish, but they have to do it in a way where they're criticizing the cover up, but not the guy doing the cover up, which is admittedly a difficult thing to do. And so I don't think it's gonna work very well, but here are a few of the current attempts going on right now. First, here is Benny Johnson.
President Trump is exonerated from the horrible trafficking, criminal, pedophilic, predator activity. He's exonerated. Totally separate issue is how is the DOJ handling this? And the DOJ is handling it poorly. It's not good. I don't like it. I'm not going to defend it. To say that there's nothing there, and he was trafficked to that he was trafficking people, children, to no one.
So the only reason that Benny Johnson is doing this at all is because there is apparently a measurable percentage of his audience who's like, what the hell are you doing, man? I mean, come on, I actually do want to save the kids. I don't know if it's 1%, 5%, 20%, but he felt the pressure necessary to do this segment. The issue is that pressure only works so far. It's not gonna give him values or integrity or anything like that, morality. So instead you get the two-sided lie there. First of all, that Trump is exonerated. What the hell are you talking about? Trump is in the files 1 million times. And Trump has been desperately trying to shut this entire thing down. That does not exonerate him, that implicates him. Now, we don't know for sure what he did, but part of the reason we don't know for sure what he did is because he's trying to make it so impossible to know what any of them did as he tries to shut this thing down and cover it up. And then, okay, he's like, oh, now this is totally separate. So hey, don't hate me. I love Trump. I love Trump. He can have sex with as many kids as he wants. I'm not criticizing him. But the DOJ, oh, I don't like the DOJ. They're doing a bad job, the DOJ. Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, Trump's personal lawyers, they're failing, not because of Trump, not because he told them to. It has nothing to do with, oh, Trump desperately wants to get to the bottom of this, but those people that he chose exclusively because they're more loyal to him than anyone else in the country are failing for reasons that don't make Trump look bad. Somehow, that's what we're supposed to buy. So that's absurd. So keep that in mind. We're gonna play one more clip. This is Alex Jones, who again is gonna try to thread that weird needle. Take a look.
There is left-right populist unity, transcending the paradigm at one level. There's also leftists trying to spin it all and only make it about Trump. And then there's right-wingers saying, no, don't look at any of it because Trump's innocent. Trump is innocent of the pedophilia and the cannibalism and all that, but his Justice Department, the buck stops with him, is now, I've got documents on that, is officially involved in the cover-up. So I'm still going to report on the good stuff Trump's doing, but I'm just really upset and angry and going to just always point that out. And we're going to look at the Trump people that are in there. I mean, that's what the listeners want, but it's almost a sin because the stuff is nothing burgers, but just to show we're good, we'll do it. I mean, it's all Democrats murdering babies, drinking blood, everything else, and no one wants to cover that because it feels too good to go, I'm pure, I'm a Republican, I'm against Trump now because of this.
It's so amazing. Dude, you had one job. Pretend you actually care about this because that's what the audience wants. You literally say that's what the audience wants, but he doesn't want to. So even as he's doing, he's like, I'm gonna be pure and I'm gonna do. It's like he's so mad that he has to pretend to care about this. And meanwhile, oh, Trump is totally innocent of the cannibalism. Why is he always talking about cannibalism? So he's innocent of everything, even though he's in there a million times. He did no bad issues at all, even though, again, that 2006 call that he had with the FBI, he revealed that he knew what Epstein had been up to and decided to just keep it to himself as more girls are victimized. That's acceptable. And then Alex Jones is like, well, don't even worry about that. In fact, I don't even want to cover it, even though I say I will, because that's a sin. Because meanwhile, the Democrats are killing people and drinking their blood. Wait. Could you link to that document? Was that revealed in the Epstein? Because if it was, that's pretty big. I want to talk about that. I feel like you're once again, like they did all the, I apologize. They did all the conspiracy theories. And it was supposed to be all this adrenochrome and cannibalism and all this stuff. And they haven't found that. But they found out all this actual stuff of all these actual elites. And they're like, you know what, actually, I liked our fantasy thing more. So I'm just gonna push that aside and go back to the cannibalism. It's ridiculous, man. Sharon, what are we supposed to do with these people that want credit and haven't earned any?
throw him overboard? I don't understand it. This guy who's always sounds like he has marbles in his mouth would not like to go through the Epstein files. Instead, he, as you said, wants to go down a fantasy way, wants to go back to a pizza parlor in DC in the basement and look around for that little ring. Okay, not what we actually know, not like Roe and Massie, who in 2 hours discovered, just 2, they only had 2 to spare this day, discovered all of these prominent names and all of this sicko stuff. He doesn't want to talk about any of that because he wants to live in an alternate universe, not in reality. He doesn't like reality, okay? No. Trump good, Trump keeps us employed, Trump. No, Epstein. Oh, what about the Clintons?
Yeah, 100%. Do you think, like, if you're a MAGA person, I know that you dwell in such a dank swamp of partisanship and tribalism that you probably think other people are like that. Do you think I would defend Joe Biden if he had gone to goddamn Epstein Island? Do you think, I was telling him to drop out of the primary because I just thought he was a bad candidate. You think I would defend him over the, but they are. Trump, Lutnick's fine, don't worry about him. All this stuff, Elon Musk desperately trying to party with Epstein. They don't care about any of this. Or have any of those people suffered in terms of their cult of personality as a result of it being revealed that they were all blatant liars? Lutnick lied about it. Elon Musk lied about it. Trump implied that he didn't know this guy's in the documents a million times. Have any of them suffered? I mean, I guess enough that Alex Jones needs to briefly pretend to give a damn on his stupid show. But that's pretty much it. Now, very briefly, let's go to this. Now that she's not in a position to actually do anything about it, Marjorie Greene gets a little bit closer to an actual principled position on this. Take a look.
Pam Bondi works directly for Donald Trump. She is not out there an independent attorney general. She can't just run out and do whatever she wants. She works at the pleasure and approval of the President of the United States. Everybody in the administration does. So does the FBI. They're under the very same pleasure and approval of the President of the United States. So when everyone's getting mad at Pam Bondi or you can name anybody you want. The man at the top is Donald Trump. He's the president. And he's the one that was completely against releasing the files. When we started fighting to get them released, he's the one that called it a Democrat hoax.
So everything that Marjorie Greene says there is 100% right, except the thing where she's just accepted and normalized the idea that the attorney general should just literally do everything that the president says. That's not actually supposed to be how that's worked. She's supposed to be independent. The head of the FBI is not supposed to just be like a lieutenant for Trump. They're supposed to be, but whatever, I guess that's done. Now it's all just loyalty. But she's right. It does go back to Trump. The buck should stop with him. The issue is, why did you leave office? Like, because you could have done something about it previously. Why did you flee? Why did you put yourself in a position where the only influence you have is doing a podcast hit remotely? Like that's my influence. Why did you want the same power I have over this entire situation rather than actually doing something about it? But anyway, Sharon, any other thoughts?
More fun to talk about than actually be about doing something here. Okay, You're absolutely right. I respect. It's just hard for me to get that out when I'm talking about her sometimes. Her position on Epstein and standing with the survivors. But the fact that she left instead of standing up, truth to power is, well, it's not even mind-boggling. At the end of the day, MTG was about herself and what she wanted to do and what her next move is, whatever that may be.
She got her pension. She got her health insurance.
Look at that.
Now she's good.
Coincidence.
She'll check the polling. She'll do a search committee at some point, exploratory committee, maybe run for something. But for right now, she's just waiting for Trump to die. That's all she's doing. And by the way, same. I get it, but like you had a position. You could have waited in Congress. We're all getting real antsy, Marge. I get it, but anyway. Limited credit at most to her. Okay, one other aspect of this, and then we'll close things out. Let's jump to this. Could Pam Bondi be the first Trump administration official to actually suffer some sort of consequences because of the cover up of the Epstein files? Spoiler alert, probably not. But maybe maybe. She did testify today before the House Judiciary Committee, and Thomas Massie, one of the Republicans who's taken this entire thing actually seriously, laid out a plan on how he thinks he can get to some sort of consequences. Take a look.
Last night you said you saw names that shouldn't be redacted that were redacted. Today you're seeing documents that are just redacted when you should be viewing totally unredacted documents behind closed doors in this private room, and that you're also seeing, or you're not seeing documents that should be in there that aren't in there. I mean, do you trust the Justice Department at this point right now, based on what you can see behind the scenes?
Tomorrow, we're going to have Pam Bondi in the Judiciary Committee, so I'll have 5 minutes to ask her these questions.
And do you think you'll get these answers?
I hope I do.
And what happens if you don't?
It's hard to refer contempt or things like that on an attorney general to the attorney general. This is the problem that you run into. And so it's going to be very difficult, but we can compel other people to come testify.
Yeah, so look, as he lays out, it's inherently a problem of any investigations into the Trump administration, the illegal acts, the unconstitutional acts, is going to be very difficult when he has taken the DOJ and the FBI and turned it into just a branch of his personal lawyers. That's all it is. That's going to be very difficult to do anything about. But doesn't mean that she's not going to look bad, and they can make more people testify, and eventually the Democrats may take over the House. Let me give an example of that. So she's testifying, and she's going to be asked to acknowledge the victims and apologize for her intentional mismanagement of this entire thing. And you're going to be shocked to find out that she does not feel like that's something that she needs to do. Take a look.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the question the way I asked it.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming?
Not on our time. No way.
Reclaiming?
And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding? I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure, this isn't a circus, this is a hearing.
Wait. They need to maintain their composure. I'll answer the question. Will you washed up loser? Something stock market. You're the Attorney General. This is a Wendy's. What are you talking about? That has nothing to do with you. Maybe that's how like Howard Lutnick can try to distract from him going to Epstein Island and having crudité or whatever. That's not that you don't get to use that, Pam Bondi. You're not in charge of the stock market. What do you have to do with 401ks? By the way, how much does the stock market need to go up that makes it okay for rich people to rape kids and we don't have justice? Like if it goes up like 6% in the year that we don't get justice for elite pedophilia? What if it drops down to like 3? What if we actually have a down quarter? Then do we pursue the pedophiles? Exactly what is the financial metrics for us actually going after those who are victimizing our kids? Because she's apparently set the line somewhere if that's what she's gonna talk about instead of it. And by the way, Sharon, I just love that. The thing that, was it Nadler or whatever, the first question that she got so mad about, the theatrics, when he said, how many co-conspirators have you investigated? And she's like, that's unacceptable, sir. How dare you? That is underhanded that you would ask me to go after one of these people. When, by the way, it's been revealed that there were other people that apparently were involved with Epstein. They're coming out with their names now. We can get to that or whatever. Have you investigated any of them? Have you talked to any of them? Where are the charges? Why were you lying? Why were you and Kash Patel saying there's no list? There's nobody else involved in this when it's now been revealed, even with these heavily redacted, the limited release of the files, it's been revealed that no, in fact, there were. Have you investigated them? And if not, why? Why won't you talk about that? I don't want to hear about your 401k. What do you think?
Answer the question, you lunatic space cadet. You are disgusting. And I am going to say this as a woman, and it may be unfair. She's lower than most of the boys because she is in a position as a woman in that position to just do her job and keep kids from being violated and prosecute people who violated kids. And instead, she is standing up for the violators. She's lower than most of the boys. She is a disgusting space cadet, and they need to collect everything they can on her. Get her to lie, get her to pinpoint. Massie's right, just keep asking people about her and get it all nice in a file. And when the Democrats take over, I'm warning you, okay? I am only voting for people who will seek retribution, who will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, who will get creative, who will take out the trash. If you don't want to do that, if you want to turn the other cheek, if the country has to move forward, I don't support you.
Yeah.
I don't support you. It will happen again quickly.
I 100% agree. De-Trumpification is not just about, taking his name off the buildings. It's about investigating all of those that were protected by this lawless regime. I totally agree. That was just grotesque. That she, it shouldn't really matter. And on the level, it doesn't matter. But yeah, but as a woman, this is what you're choosing to do. You're protecting those men who sexually assaulted these girls, and that's your job. And you're doing all these theatrics of washed up loser, best president. Why aren't you talking about the Dow Jones? Meanwhile, she's asked to apologize, and then she's like, that's a gutter theatrics. I'm not doing that. And then they had, because there were a lot of survivors in the background, they had the survivors stand up and raise their hand if they had never even been contacted by the DOJ, and a bunch of them raised their hand. Pam Bondi, how are you shutting down the investigation when you literally haven't even talked to them? Why won't you even look them in the eye? Why are you guys so much more defensive about, you're nicer to Ghislaine Maxwell than you are to the women she assaulted? Why? I mean, I know why. I think we all know why. I think more Republicans are realizing why, and it looks really bad for you. But I just want you to admit it. I just want you to admit it. Anyway, that's gonna have to be it for the first segment of the show. We got a lot more to get to after this. This is like we covered on the show. We try to have some fun, and I do have fun on the show covering it, but also on another level when we're not having fun or whatever. This is almost too disgusting that this is our government and that these people, this is how they act and this is what they do. You washed up loser. Bernie Moreno was asked about a 9-year-old who was assaulted. And he was like, oh, are you talking about Jamie Raskin with his bad hair? This is absolutely disgusting. This is our government 4chan? What has happened? What has happened? Thomas H. Sears, member for 48 months, thank you for your support, says, speaking of losing the family farm, Hallie Schaffner is running to take Cotton's seat in Arkansas. She's got a chance. Booster. I'm gonna have to look into that candidacy, but thank you for putting on our radar. I do appreciate that. And CDN Northstock Dad, thank you for gifting the membership. Oh, some of these are from yesterday. We can get to them. I do want to make sure that we get to them. Chaotic Dream, remember for 5 months, says Solo John show today. Will he keep pace? Kudos to you and your team for doing this every day. I think we got to everything yesterday, so I was okay. Elizabeth Slater gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. And now today, CDN Northstock Dad gifted another membership. Thank you for that. Dragon Dancer gifted 1. Thank you. Cursed INFP gifted 5. Thank you to all of you. I really do appreciate that. Willa Logical WF is a member. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, CDN Northstock Dad said in a super chat, word Trump appears more times in Epstein files than God in Bible, Torah, and Quran combined. Harry in all 7 Harry Potter novels. God and Harry are the main characters in their books. Is Trump the main character in the Epstein files? He just might be. I mean, I'd imagine Epstein's in them more, but I don't know. I think he's an easy number 2 in more ways than one. CK Progressive says, Trump's blocking the opening of the new Gordie Howe Bridge connecting Detroit to Canada, and it's made my blood boil. Canada paid for the entire project. He thinks Canada owes America when in reality it's the opposite. Yeah, Carolyn Levitt was asked about this, and she's like, this is just him being America first. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. This is a major bridge that they're paying for and that we get tolls for, and we get jobs from the increased economic activity, and our businesses get to sell in Canada a little bit easier. This is a win-win. This is amazing. We didn't have to pay for it. And you're gonna shut it down? That's America last. That's 100% America. They're not gonna give you the bridge. That's not a thing that's gonna happen. You goddamn idiotic jackass. Neil Whittington says, hopefully his approval rating is forever submerged. Down in the Titanic. That's the switcheroo. Yeah, no, his numbers are bad. We're gonna get to that in just a little bit. Gargoyle Dragon says in Super Chat, these are the same type of people that made fun of Chris Farley for Chippendale dancing because he wasn't a real Chippendale. They don't get jokes. No, they 100% don't get jokes. Nicodemus says, for being the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson sure is out of the loop on a lot of things. Yeah, it's cartoonish. It's infantile. Now, I think the reporters generally do a good job of explaining what it is. But that makes him look more ridiculous. It's not an actual answer to the problem because he's never going to acknowledge those problems because he's a tiny little baby boy. He's not a man. He has no backbone. He's not gonna stand up for anything. That's just not who he is. He doesn't have the Constitution. Krusty the Clown says he was only there to get directions on how to get away from there. 100%. He brought his kids. You talked about bringing in the nannies, and I definitely think that they should. But I will just say what I said yesterday. What do the kids think about that? That dear Papa took us to Pedophile Island, because where else are you gonna get lunch? I mean, we're gonna starve. It's the only place to get a meal. So strange. If you're just joining us now, please hit the like button as we jump into more news. Some Republicans in power in Congress have had enough, apparently, of Donald Trump's tariff madness, and they're opening up a pathway to take away Donald Trump's favorite toy and his answer to every problem that isn't actually an answer and often is the problem itself. And the threats to Donald Trump's mad tariff regime come in multiple forms. First of all, he's been fighting with the Supreme Court, who is taking absolutely forever to rule on that. But even as we're waiting for that, House Republicans are moving forward with a way to take away his unilateral power. Now, the reason it's unilateral is they can't vote to stop it because Mike Johnson has just made it literally impossible to have a vote. He doesn't want them exercising their constitutional responsibilities. He doesn't want them having power. It's all about just laying down to Donald Trump, and they don't like it anymore. So we're gonna get to that and the progress we've had on that. But first, just the latest example of why Donald Trump is not responsible enough to have this power. Here is something he said recently.
We had a $42 billion deficit, and we weren't taking anything. I said, well, we have to do something because we have to even that up a little bit. I didn't have to get everything at one time. So I put on a 30% tariff, which is very low. Still, we were having a big deficit, but it was half the deficit. Then I got an emergency call from, I believe, the Prime Minister of Switzerland, and she was very aggressive, but nice, but very aggressive. Sir, we are a small country. We can't do this. We can't do this. I couldn't get her off the phone. We are a small country. I said, you may be a small country, but we have a $42 billion deficit with you. No, we are a small country. Again and again and again, I couldn't get her off the phone. So it was at 30%. And I didn't really like the way she talked to us. And so instead of giving her a reduction, I raised it to 39%.
I just want everyone to remember that the next time you are told that a woman cannot become president because she will be too emotional. He raised the tariff on an entire nation because he didn't like the way a woman talked to him on the phone. By the way, he doesn't even know which woman. It's not the Prime Minister of Switzerland. It's the former president. Former president. I didn't like it. She was rude. She didn't even smile at me. So I raised the tariffs on them. By the way, first of all, his numbers are wrong, as I'll get to. But let's say that they weren't wrong. Let's say that there was a $42 billion trade deficit between us and Switzerland. Do you know why there would be a $42 billion trade deficit? It would represent that we buy more stuff from them than they do from us. Maybe because we are far richer and far, far larger. There are more people to buy things. There's more money to buy things. It is not a sign of weakness that we buy things from them. And he brags that I put a tariff on us and it cut the trade deficit. Because it's more expensive for us to buy products, so we don't. How is that good for anyone? that now we can't afford to buy things from them, and I'm supposed to cheer for you? I'm supposed to clap? That's not how it works. The numbers also, by the way, aren't how it works. We don't have a $42 billion trade deficit. We have an $8.6 billion trade deficit, which, considering the difference in size and wealth of our nations, is actually amazingly close. And so, do something, stop this madman. And thankfully, some of them are. There are some Republicans who have joined up with Democrats to override the rule. I believe the vote already happened, actually. Just enough of them, 3 House Republicans have made it so that now there can actually be a vote on stopping some of these tariffs. One of the things they might move on soon is the insane tariffs against Canada, which have been so devastating to our country and to our corporations. It actually remains to be seen, Sharon, what they'll do in practice. But this entire thing, my God, we got to get past this dark part of America in terms of the economy. What do you think?
This dark part of American history, and you said just 3 of them, huh? After all the pain, after all of the desperation Americans are going through, only 3 of them decided to just hitch a giddy up and say, okay, I guess we'll do a little inch closer to this vote in the finish line here and take back some of the power away from this madman. I think the University of Pennsylvania is a wonderful Ivy League school, but we've got to investigate everything at this point. He's so dumb. Everything he's doing is so dumb. Did you go to business school? Do you know anything about business? It seems the answer would be no, and no one around you can stop you. And yet only 3 bums on the other side said, well, we'll go ahead and join you. It's really sad. I know we're supposed to keep hope and understand that America will emerge from this dark period. But if only 3 after all of this could say, we'll at least advance the football, what?
It's so pathetic. By the way, I looked it up. Switzerland's population is around 9 million people. It is smaller than New Jersey by 500,000 people. And we barely have a trade deficit with them. And a trade deficit isn't actually necessarily a bad thing. And so he wrecked our trade with a country because he doesn't understand any of these facts. My God. Well, let's throw out some more facts that he will neither understand nor appreciate when they inevitably continue damaging the American people. We know that Donald Trump's tariffs have been absolutely devastating to the economy. They've raised costs. It's been a tax on the American public. Well, we have some updated numbers on that. A new report from the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation found that the tariffs cost Americans a lot of money in 2025. It's going up. 2025, it was on average for each household $1,000 of additional needless taxes that you got absolutely nothing for. It's going to go up 30% for 2026, $1,300 that you will pay because Donald Trump didn't like how Macron looked at him, and he didn't like this country, and they were really mean to us. So every single household, your household and the one down the street and the next one, $1,300, $1,300, $1,300 in extra taxes on you, as they massively cut taxes on the wealthy last year. Isn't that nice for them? This, by the way, represents the largest US tax increase as a percentage of GDP since 1993. They say that he's a big tax cutter, and if you're wealthy enough, it is true. But for regular Americans, it's the biggest tax they've experienced in more than 3 decades. By the way, we talk often about who's paying for the tariffs, and you know that the majority is us. But different organizations have come out with different estimates of what percentage we pay for. The Kiel Institute in Germany estimated that US consumers and importers bear 96% of the tariff burden. This is arguably the dumbest sustained policy a United States president has ever pursued. And appropriately, it's because we have the dumbest president that we've had possibly in centuries. Sharon, what do you think?
I mean, that's the only way to put it. But again, I know this is getting old, but why? I say to my fellow Americans, why are we doing this? Anybody who is supporting this nonsense has got to go. Why are we allowing this? This is, even though he's seized power and he's been declared a king and all of this nonsense that he's doing that's hurting us, there's still an easy route to get him the hell out of here. and restore some sense of American life that wasn't perfect to begin with, but it sure wasn't this. It wasn't this. Why are we voting against our own interests, I say, to the other basket that Hillary was talking about in that one good soundbite? Why are you doing this?
No, it's just madness. By the way, what I think of when I see this is like, they say that Bad Bunny hates America because he had a thing about love in his halftime show, whatever. Meanwhile, if you actually hated America and hated Americans, is there anything worse you could do than making every single household pay $1,300 for absolutely nothing? Kind of feel like that'd be a pretty successful way to get across your utter hatred for your fellow man. Anyway, that's gonna have to be it for this segment. More to come after this. Okay, so we are regrettably behind schedule. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back. We're just gonna keep going with what we've got, more economy to close out this hour. And we can probably talk about Texas tomorrow. Luke Beasley's gonna be on the show. It should be a lot of fun. Okay, let's jump into some comments. Pagan Dragon, thank you for a 15 stream streak and says, I need all this Epstein people to be held accountable. I can work with the rest. I'm not even gonna ask for all of them to be held accountable. I want one person to be held accountable. There was a guy who lost his job or something, some random guy. I think that's it so far. We can't get Howard Lutnick. Who even cares about Howard Lutnick? We can't get him. We can't get anything. Honestly, I think Bill Clinton is the one suffering the most consequences because he's gonna have to testify. I think that's pretty much it. Meanwhile, in other countries, they are doing something about this. You know what's wild? I just saw this thing. There was I think it was like a New York Real Housewife who lost a job because of something she said about Bad Bunny. But Howard Lutnick had lunch on Pedophile Island, and it's ridiculous of you to assert that he should lose his job. What is going on? By the way, I don't even care about the housewife. Fine,
Jill Zarin.
Yeah, I don't even care. But there's more consequences for that? That seems unacceptable. Anyway, so you're familiar with this story?
Jill Zarin, she's very upset about it too, which I'm just getting sick of TMZ. Just they're getting the stories right from her. She's so upset. It could have been a teachable moment. Why are you doing this to me? Some show that was supposed to be a reboot of the OG Housewives, New York. But yeah, she said she's now re-looked at the halftime show and believes that Bad Bunny had all the best intentions after saying wildly disgusting things. And the producer's saying, you know what? We don't even want to be bothered with you. But yeah, she lost her job. Howard Lutnick, who brought his nannies and children and wife to Epstein Island and told horrific lies. Oh, he said, there's a massage table and now we all must go. I'll never go back there again, honey. Bye, liar, okay? He gets to stay. And Mike Johnson, who I feel like, since he's such a believer, divine intervention, the Lord is saying, I'm gonna give you another opportunity to do the right thing. And each time, he just erupts in a ball of fire. He just won't do it.
It's just wild, the standards on
I'm
sure she's rich or whatever. I'm not saying that she doesn't have some power or something, but
the TMZ story said she doesn't need the money. It did say that.
I'm sure. Stephen Miller called the dude an assassin. There were no consequences. Again, I just feel like there's the more power you have, the less expectation there is that you will wield it with anything approaching sanity, let alone common sense. Absolute madness. Anyway, I like that she tried to backtrack a little bit. It is funny that some of them have. Jake Paul tried to backtrack on what he'd said about Bad Bunny when he was getting criticized so much. Anyway, okay, let's see. Anthony McClendon, member for 59 months on YouTube, says, hi, John. These camps you spoke about yesterday, one is scheduled to be built here in New Hampshire. We're trying to stop it, but yeah, that's going to be difficult. So you're probably going to have this absolutely massive camp, knowing that near where you live, where your kids go to school, there's going to be these horrible abuses, likely people being assaulted, people dying, and don't know if anything's gonna be done about it. Oh, and we also have to spend tens of billions of dollars to build all these things. We have to fund that with the little money left over after Trump's tariffs. It's a great government that we've got set up here. Let's see. Jasper Katz been here for 45 months. Thank you so much for that. Socrates Bartender is on a 5-stream streak. Okay, everybody, before we jump back into the news, I want to remind you about a partnership that TYT is doing with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. You can switch to Noble's Noble plan and get unlimited data for only $50 a month, and that's the base price. Actually, right now it's $40 off, and it's even less than that once you get the cash back for not using your data. So I don't know. I don't even know if it's a positive number at that point, but you can find out more by going to tyt.com/switch or scanning the QR code. And with that, let's jump now into this. An absolutely, apparently damning report on Trump's handling of the economy is set to be released, and the White House is scrambling to get out in front of it and explain why it is that the Trump economy apparently generated a few less jobs than was initially reported. Just a few. 1 million less jobs than they previously said. So we're gonna need a good explanation. So they sent Peter Navarro to the news to explain. Let's see how he did.
We have to revise our expectations down significantly for what a monthly job number should look like. When we were letting in 2 million illegal aliens, they're coming in. We had to produce 200,000 jobs a month for steady state. And by the way, all of the jobs that we were creating in Biden years were going to illegals. Americans were going to the unemployment lines. That's totally reversed. And now 50,000 a month is going to be more like what we need.
It sounds like you're expecting a weak number tomorrow.
No, not expecting a weak number. I'm just saying that going forward, when we see a number under 100,000, we don't wring our hands. We say, yeah, that's going to be steady state.
Peter, great to see you.
It's all good, Maria.
Hey, it's great to see you. I love the propaganda that we got to do there. So you're expecting a weak number? No, not a weak number. What I'm expecting is that you're gonna help me convince people that weakness is strength. I mean, we've done it everywhere else. Could we do it with the jobs numbers as well? So first of all, that idea that every job before was going to illegal immigrants or whatever is insane, and the unemployment rate was going down. So how is it that all Americans were going to none of that made any sense. But just the overall idea that they are gonna spit in your face and tell you it's raining. So the numbers are gonna be really low, but you're supposed to cheer for it. You like that? You like that, America? How you like that kind of propaganda? Is that fun for you? I don't accept it. But yeah, apparently they're gonna be about 1 million jobs fewer than we thought. 862,000 fewer jobs between March and this year than they had previously said. This is what it looks like, by the way. So previously, if you look at this chart, it kind of looked like they were going up. Like even then it had leveled off. But when you take out those jobs, the line from, bear in mind, that entire thing is not the Trump administration. That's Biden for 2 of those years. When you started at 2025, it's nothing, basically. It's nothing at all. That steady state is what that is, I guess, says Navarro. So look, when this is what's going on out there, you perhaps can't be surprised that even Rasmussen, who tries to deliver pro-Trump polls to the best of their ability, found this recently. Who did a better job as president? Joe Biden at 48%, Donald Trump at 40%. That's Rasmussen. They exaggerate things more than Carolyn Levitt. And even they found that people are now getting a little bit wistful about old sleepy Joe. Sharon, what do you think?
Yeah, the guy who fell off all the bikes and tripped everywhere and it's looped on TikTok. They're longing to have him back, even though he couldn't keep his eyes open. That's how far we've fallen. Peter Navarro is a fool. I go back and look at the video often of him crying about how they picked him up at his house instead of just letting him turn himself in. And these people are just like, they're piglets who are running around, slopping around, trying to tell Americans, you're not hurting, buck up. I'm still having 5-star lunches and working half days. I don't even believe that the numbers are, they're worse than what that's showing, okay? Because anytime that they can be in charge and have their fingerprints on things, I have to ask questions. And anytime they keep increasing the budget for ICE and putting all those people to work, it's probably the numbers are padded that way too. This is, we're in desperate times, as if we didn't know it, America, while this guy is still lying his way through another interview.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, bad news for Pam Bondi. This bad jobs data, we're now below the threshold where we actually get to care about elite pedophiles again. Because remember, it's all based on the economy, Pam Bondi. But anyway, yeah, no, it's absolutely devastating. And this is the economy This is the state of the economy right now, with the bubble not having burst yet. Can you imagine what it's going to look like? They keep talking about the stock market as if like almost all of that growth isn't entirely just based on like 3 or 4 companies trading money back and forth because AI is such an important technology. Oh, it's going to drive so much actual real world growth. Imagine what it's going to look like when that finally bursts. But anyway, let's turn now to another aspect of this, starting with this video.
I'm popular and I've done well. I mean, I think we have the greatest economy actually ever in history. We broke 50 and we broke 7,000. They said I wouldn't do that for 4 years, and I did it in 1 year. We have to get the word out, okay?
Yeah, we have to get the word out. I mean, maybe I can actually help you with that. Not about you being popular and doing a good job. I fact checked both of those, and neither's true. No, I have a word that I want to get out. It's that your mishandling of the economy has been so devastating that they recently polled, Gallup, they polled people about their level of optimism about the future. And 1 year into your second term, they are more pessimistic about the future than they were in the darkest depths of the pandemic itself, which I don't even know how that's possible. I'm a big critic of what's going on right now, but even that's pretty dark, but that's what they found. Take a look at it. You can see there anticipated life optimism slumping down below the pandemic. That's what they found. And they found that overall optimism fell 3.5 percentage points since 2024. It's amazing that you can quantify that, but they have. It's not totally even, by the way. Some groups lost optimism faster. Hispanic adults saw the sharpest decline, dropping from about 69% to roughly 63%. Meanwhile, Republicans saw a modest increase in optimism, buttressed by a nice healthy dose of copium, I guess. But even that, by the way, there's always a partisan effect in that, where like the party that's out of power doesn't like what's going on. The party that is in power does like what's going on. So bear in mind, it only going up by 0.9 points for Republicans, that's by itself devastating. And that's what Trump has produced. You're not popular and you haven't done a good job. And that's why people are so terrified about what the next few years are gonna bring. Sharon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're gonna have to really watch him because he's been a maniac for so long. But in this last stretch to the midterms, based at what he's looking at, he's desperate. And this desperate creature is gonna be doing things that even we, after living with him for so long, are not gonna be able to fathom. We're really gonna have to watch this guy.
Yeah. I think, look, at this point, he wants to get the message out. He wants like a positive news cycle. I've been really thinking about this. And for him to get a really positive news cycle, he's gonna have to start eating even more Big Macs on a daily basis. I mean, I think we can get there. I think we can have a good couple of days of news, but not economically.
The Big Mac.
Anyway, that's gonna be it for the first hour of the show, everyone. Thank you for being here. And for those of you who are watching live, we do have more news. We're gonna talk about how Bad Bunny made history during his Super Bowl performance. And then beyond that, we've got more hate coming from the Trump administration, but then positive news at the like sort of grassroots level all over the country, a pushback against the insane culture wars that the right has been pushing for a few years. We're gonna break that down and more after this. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. Thank you for being here. We've got a lot of news. Some of it is very fun, others not so much, but we're gonna get through all of it. But first, don't forget about our sponsor, Noble Mobile. Save money by using your phone less and get unlimited data for $50 a month or even less at tyt.com/switch. Okay, with that said, we're gonna read one or two comments. Gabby, hey Gabby, says it with a super chat. The quickest way to demonstrate that you are full of crap tryharder is to use multiple fingers to point at things like Peter Navarro. Did he point? I don't even know what he did. That does seem strange. I need to go back and watch the clip. Finally, Sailor Digurin, member for 54 months, says, John, what's really terrible about the camps is that there were people in the media who lost their jobs or predict them. Yes, I do. I do get that reference. I see what you're doing there. Okay, with that said, thank you for the comments, and we're gonna jump into more news starting with this.
What'd you think of Bad Bunny? I know you didn't see all of it, but you saw some clips.
Like most people, I didn't understand any of it. I mean, I saw there's a lot of dancers and a lot of big to-do stuff. And, he said he wanted to have a dance party. It looked like he had one. Not my cup of tea, but I don't fault that kid for, doing the Super Bowl, getting in front of a global audience. I fault the NFL for putting him in that position, and Turning Point for having to come out and have an alternative for people to watch, It's just poor kid.
Yeah, poor kid. I don't fault him for it. I'm not myself desperate to do a halftime show, and they never ask me. I don't fault him. He gave it a try. It's really the NFL. It put him in this difficult position, set him up for a historic failure. Really screwed him. Sorry, I might have misread part of that. Set him up for a historic success because Super Bowl 60 drew an average audience of more than 124 million viewers. That's the second most of any in history, and set a new record for peak viewership during Bad Bunny's halftime show. The Super Bowl has literally never been more viewed than it was while Bad Bunny was having his little dance party. The network said the viewership peaked at that point at 137 million viewers. So 124 million people wanted to watch the football. An additional 13 million people were like, nah, screw that, but I will tune in for Bad Bunny. 137 million. That is infinitely more than the number Turning Point USA paid bots to pretend that they had, let alone the actual audience. So that was an absolutely wild success, by the way. And I want to repeat that for the right wing, because this is a learning opportunity, although you will almost certainly not learn anything. So for those sad sacks that were attacking this thing, it was a massive success, which means it was a really good business decision by the NFL to choose him. They didn't go woke, go broke. They went woke, if being Puerto Rican is woke, and that is what the right has been saying, and got more viewers than they've ever had before. It kind of feels like maybe we could learn like a broader lesson about this. Maybe the bloviating and the terrible predictions and the attacks and all that were actually really off base. And by the way, there was one particular way that they were attacking him, which is, these Super Bowl halftime shows are supposed to be unifying. And I, like Jon Stewart, don't understand why they're supposed to be that. How is that possibly the performer's job? But if that was their job, what is more unifying than the most watched performance ever? It literally brought more people together. By the way, if every single Spanish-speaking American tuned in, that still leaves almost 100 million non-Spanish-speaking Americans who watched it too. Evidently, the language barrier was not the obstacle the right wing pretended that it was. So I have more. This is gonna get more ironic and more ridiculous, but Sharon, I know that you were a fan of it. Wildly successful.
I love Bunny. I love him. 19.8 billion streams, surpassing Taylor Swift, which is exactly the business decision that the NFL wanted. Appointment television. When, as you said, more people were interested in Mr. Bunny than they were the football game. And yet you have Kid Rock, who, by the way, in that interview looked like he was in the witness protection program. He could walk down Fifth Avenue. Nobody would even recognize him. A has-been, overdone. There's not real legs there, okay? He's just a guy who's pretty salty. 5 million maybe watched you, Mr. Rock, and the Bunny ruled with love. Cardi B made a little pop-up special appearance. I mean, it was just a beautiful. Gaga, it was a beautiful thing to watch. And we're supposed to be punished for that. We're supposed to watch that and hate after that. Come on, let us be happy.
No, nobody gets to be happy. Nobody gets to learn a lesson. The fact that Barbie made $1 billion, nope, woke is still bad in movies. And the fact that Bad Bunny's the most successful whatever, nope, woke is still bad in music because I need it to be. And they will see whatever it is that they want to see. And I have a great example of that. Andy Ogles, Tennessee Republican, he wants to probe the halftime show for featuring gay pornography. That's a thing that he actually said. So he watched it, and that's what he got out of that performance. That's what he saw, or that's what he chose to see. There was like one shot where two men were dancing on each other, and Andy Ogles is like, aha, gay pornography. And that is not gay pornography. I have a feeling that if we were to do a survey of gay porn videos, like in your search history, Representative Ogles, I'm sure they got up to far more than a little bit of car hood grinding or whatever. But that's what he saw. And I think that's strange because I watched that halftime show, and you know what I saw? I saw Bad Bunny, sure. I also saw a lot of wildly attractive women dancing in a very attractive way, each one sexier than the last. And that's what my eyes went to. Andy Ogles was distracted by something else he saw at some point, which is a little bit strange, maybe something to talk to your therapist about. But that's not the only investigation they're pushing for. Representative Mark Alford wants Bad Bunny investigated for swearing, which evidently he didn't do. But even if he did, is there anything more pathetically uncool than tattling on Bad Bunny for using curse words? I want you investigate. I want fines. I want Bad Bunny in prison because he said a bad word in a language I don't even understand. My God, you people are uncool. And you know how uncool they are? They're so uncool that a guy who once said there's nothing gayer than having sex with a woman thinks they're too uncool for him, and that's Nick Fuentes. He looked at the Turning Point USA halftime show and he said, what the F was that? I mean, if that's the best we have to offer, honestly, I'm switching sides. And he goes on to talk about all the right wingers attacking it when they don't get how wildly popular it is and how uncool it makes them seem to be against it. And that's Nick Fuentes, who's literally never even talked to a girl. He can tell that this is lame. Sharon, what do you think?
Who's the congressman who, listen, if his eye is trained to spot gay porn, then I guess there's something to investigate. But I think that this is pathetic. And when we have to point to Fuentes as a voice of perhaps some reason here, that pretty much says it all. Your side's losing, thank goodness. And one thing that you may actually be good at now is uniting the rest of us. Even people who are on the fringe may be coming over to the side that does not love to hate. Yep. So that could be one positive. I think I saw that one scene. I said, this is the sexiest thing ever. This whole production was so sexy. And that's what the congressman got out of it. But okay,
I don't get it. By the way,
let him investigate.
You don't have to love it. Like I think he's like it's not my favorite music or whatever. Sure. Like you don't have to pretend to like it if you don't. But like you also don't have to pretend to have a problem with it when you really didn't either. And I don't think that those are equally pathetic. By the way, anyway. With that said, we are going to turn to stuff that is wildly pathetic. But first, I want to read a couple of comments. Cher Joy says in a super chat, up flying high with the Seahawks, best team ever. Not the best Super Bowl ever, although one of the most watched ever. A Rags to Ruin story says, Trump's a number 2 for sure, but not an easy one. We've been trying to flush Alzheimer's Hitler for over a decade now. That's pretty, you know what, that's pretty good. A Rags to Ruin story, have you gotten a Blueprint gift card? If you haven't, send an email to rewards@tytnetwork.com and we'll get you set up with that. Okay, with that said, this is one of the most unfortunate stories on the rundown, but let's jump into it.
What do you think when you see these statues around the country being taken down, in some cases torn down?
I don't like it. I'm not one that likes it. I think we have a history. We have a very, in fact, I was just going to make a statement on that today, unrelated to yours. We have a very, very important heritage and history, and whether things are good or bad, you learn from it. And you know, the expression is you'll make the same mistake again if you forget your history. And I think it's a very important thing. It's a very important part of our history. Seeing what's done. You know, in some cases, I agree, there were Confederate soldiers, generals, but they were done after the war in order to heal. This was a gesture of healing.
That's interesting. There's a lot of really interesting stuff there. An interesting lie claiming that the people who put up these Confederate statues were doing it so that we knew how bad they were. That's not why they put the statues up originally. What are you talking about? But that's interesting. He says, you know, you're doomed to repeat history if you don't learn from it. And some of our history has been very dark. And we shouldn't shy away from that. Now, I don't know why we would need Confederate statues to understand that, but that's the thesis that he put out. And it's strange that when it comes to maintaining these white supremacist statues, he's all for keeping the dark parts of history. But when it comes to actually acknowledging specific dark parts of history and the victims of them, suddenly he's not so interested in that. And I'm leading in here to talking about how the National Park Service has apparently removed visitor brochures from the Medgar and Muriel Evers Home National Monument in Jackson, Mississippi. Evidently, they had a problem with some of the content in it. Specifically, references labeling Evers' killer, Byron de la Beckwith, as a racist. They didn't like that the brochures were judgy about the guy who assassinated an activist and a lawyer because he was black. How dare you? How dare you acknowledge that this guy might have been a racist? By the way, there is a little bit of evidence that the killer was a racist. Partly it's that he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. He was not like a group that's like the Ku Klux Klan, not an ode to the Ku Klux Klan, a reboot. He was in the original OG Ku Klux Klan and the White Citizens Council. He apparently had a lot of time. And he stayed a committed white supremacist, bragging about the racist murder that he'd done until he died in prison in 2001, because thankfully, many, many years after the murder, he was eventually convicted of it, but not initially, because we were an inherently racist society that had white jurors who refused to convict him for gunning down this man in cold blood. But sorry, I'm being judgy here, Sharon. I feel like this video will not be on display at the monument, not while Trump is in charge. What do you make of this?
He's a nutcase. You know, Byron were alive today, he'd be very upset with the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself, because he wasn't just part of the KKK and these other white supremacy groups. He was proud to be part of it. He proclaimed his membership. He touted it anywhere and everywhere he could. As you said, until his dying day, he was a proud white supremacist, bigot, killer. And so why they want to take that away from a man who was so proud of it and ruin that in American history, I don't know. But it's nutcase stuff.
Yeah, all this is nutcase stuff. I mean, even if he hadn't died in prison, I don't think Byron would have made it. First of all, he would have offed himself as soon as he found out that he shared a name with Byron Donalds. And then Byron Donalds would have been really sad that the Republican Party lost a great white supremacist. But anyway, yeah, no, this is just, this isn't the most important story going on right now. And they're doing this all over, by the way. The insurrection thing at the Smithsonian, I think it is, they're clearing out the stuff about Trump being like, no, you can't talk about the insurrection. Trump wasn't impeached, don't talk about that. By the way, the State Department is clearing out all the tweets from before Donald Trump was put in charge, because everything needs to be exactly what Donald Trump wants the message to be. All this is wild censorship, propaganda. That's all that this is. It's not the only one, by the way. A large pride flag was quietly removed from the Stonewall National Monument in Manhattan after a directive from the federal government. That's what they're spending their time on, choosing marble for their monuments and taking down the pride flag, because that's unacceptable. And so they're gonna try to put it back up, at least in some context, but this is going on all over the country, of course. In Florida, they're destroying, when they do those rainbow crosswalks, Ron DeSantis simply cannot sleep, he can't eat, he can't maintain an erection until he gets rid of every single one of these crosswalks. It's unacceptable and he won't stand for it. This is how petty and how driven by nonstop identity politics and culture war BS this stupid white supremacist regime is. Any other thoughts, Sharon?
No, but well, yeah. Once this monster's gone and we deal with all of the treasonous bastards who supported him and did crimes in his name, we're going to have to take a page out of Germany's history. We're going to have to do what they did after the world was rid of Hitler. They're going to have to confront the past and to this day work to make sure it's never repeated. We're going to have to go through all of these things. And this is a very short window in American history, but we're going to have to go back and make it right and reteach school children. We may have lost a whole generation based on Trump and his lies, but we're going to have to figure it out like Germany did, still not a perfect society, to say, oh, this is not what we're not part of this Hitler thing. We're not gonna do this. We will claim this happened, here's why, but we will never revisit this filth. And how will we do that? We will make sure that everybody knows we've learned, and we'll keep teaching about this disastrous, murderous time in German history. And that's what America's gonna have to do here.
I agree. It's the brochure thing is just so wildly petty. It's like when the Pentagon like took down, I think they had stuff about like the Tuskegee Airmen and stuff like that. And they just said, no, we can't acknowledge that. I don't like it. I don't want to think about it. It's
the
so
USS
petty.
Gay, remember that?
Yeah, exactly. The Enola Gay had to be taken out because it was gay, I guess. Yeah, so how dare you imply that this killer was racist? Racism doesn't exist. I mean, decades and decades after the murder, our government is so explicitly racist that it's weeding out inconvenient history. But how dare you, sir? Absolute madness. Okay, with that, I think that we have time for one more story. I'm gonna read one comment first. Robert Ryder in a super chat says, I watched a PBS show, American Experience episode, Nazi Town, and I was blown away by the number of Nazi summer camps in America before we joined WW2. Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with the camps. I do know about the, oh my God, why am I blanking on? Madison Square Garden had the big Nazi like gathering or whatever, which maybe one of Trump's relatives went to or something. Anyway, yeah, we have a dark history. Let's see, finally, William King, member for 12 months, says, this is why Grindr crashed twice during the last RNC, John and Sharon. Yes, I do recall that actually.
Did it?
Okay, with that said, let's end the show with some positive news. It looks like more and more Americans might finally be sick and tired of far-right candidates ruining school boards across the country. A recent analysis has been released by Red, Wine, and Blue. This is a left-leaning network of over 700,000 suburban women working to influence politics at the grassroots level. And they found, after doing an analysis of all these different candidates running for these offices, 62% of candidates that it had labeled as extremist lost their elections. Meanwhile, 71% of the candidates it characterized as common sense won competitive school board races in states like Ohio, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. 2/3 of those winners were challenges, by the way. This wasn't like easy wins for incumbents or something. They were actually taking down somebody who was already in that position. More than half were women, by the way, including many first-time contenders. And that's pretty impressive. And we want to give you a little bit more from their analysis. This is the founder and CEO of Red, Wine, and Blue saying, being a culture warrior did not sell in 2025 because it was such a signal of being out of touch with people's everyday concerns. Folks are worried and feeling stressed from all angles. So to have these candidates come in and say the number one thing we should be concerned about are transgender children and what bathroom they use or what sports they play feels incredibly out of touch with the day-to-day realities of people's lives. And I think that that makes a lot of sense. I think that that's why you've seen in some Republican primaries and in some general elections, they've tried to run on the she's for they, them stuff or whatever, and it hasn't been working for them. People are being screwed over, not in abstract culture war senses, economically. They are very worried about the future. How can you seem more out of touch than by talking all the time about trans people when you don't know them, you've never met one? It seems insane. And I'm glad that it's not just on like the gubernatorial or the congressional level, but it's finally weeding out some of these sickos from school boards as well. Kids need to learn. They need resources, they need teachers, they need books. Just banning books, just talking about gender affirming care and everything makes you seem insane. And I'm glad that that's filtering down. Sharon, what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, politics is local. Karl Rove decades ago explained that. First we take over the school boards, and then we take over the cities and the judges, and so now we need to go ahead and follow that playbook and take things back. Because when you allow crazy on the local level, as you said, and it's really a shame because kids don't know what they don't know. It's just opening up a big world and letting them become who they're supposed to be instead of turning them into these bizarre little machines that have no understanding of what came before them or what's coming next.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's absolutely wild, just like talking about bathrooms constantly. Like kids don't have colored
Watch Miss
pencils.
Rachel. Okay. She's not a
Yeah,
Nazi.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to end on this though, because this is a related issue. They have really been trying to make all of American politics about demonizing trans people. There was an analysis. Fox News posts more articles about trans people than any other media outlet in the country, including explicitly LGBTQ ones. Like the gay and trans media outlets don't talk about trans people as much as Fox News does. And that is, in the words of Tim Waltz, that's just weird. You guys are freaking weirdos, man. And I don't know why it was normalized for a couple of years. I know that it was a weird offshoot of your satanic panic where you guys were pretending to worry about pedophilia or whatever. That's obviously blown up in your face. You look like goofs on that too, but you're just weird and it's time that we move on from your weirdness. Anyway, any other thoughts before we close things out?
No, but I think that's the perfect way to end it. Fox News is the world leader in gay storytelling. They're the world leader. That's what their new, that's what it should be. Not fair and balanced. Gay storytelling lives here, okay? Mistelling, but still. I mean, that's what they're concentrating on. That's what their interest is. You're only telling these stories if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, it's that absurd. I'm gonna read just one more comment to close things out because this just came in. Adam Fogarty, member for 58 months, says San Francisco teachers are on strike for the first time in 47 years as of Monday. It's probably about bathrooms. That's probably the chief concern of actual teachers. But no, that's good news. I like to see people organizing, fighting for what they think they deserve. And sometimes it's tough. Like if your kid goes to school in San Francisco, this might be tough for you. I'm very worried that the next WNBA season might not happen because there could very well be a strike over pay. But if it's justified, and in this case it is, then sometimes we need solidarity with those who are pushing for their fair share or their fair slice of the pie. So anyway, great news. Thank you, Adam, for letting me know about that. And with that, that's going to be the end of the show for today. Sharon, it is always a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And I assure you that the teachers in San Francisco are not fighting for the right to bring guns into the classroom. They're probably fighting for wages and pension and the things that matter.
Normal, non-weird stuff.
That's right.
Anyway, everybody out there, early heads up. Again, I don't know when it's going to be released, but after this, I'm going to be going to appear on Ida Rodriguez's podcast, Say What You Mean, which should be a lot of fun. And I'll definitely give you information about it when I find out when it's going to be released. But just wanted to give you an early heads up. Tomorrow, Luke Beasley's going to be here, which should be awesome. Brett Ehrlich will be here on Friday to close out the week. So definitely tune into both of those episodes. For now, though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.